Internal Revenue Service IRS tax news. IRS Treasury disbursed 90 million economic impact payments from the American Rescue Plan, IR 2021-58, March 17, 2021, Washington. Today, the Internal Revenue Service, the U.S. Department of the Treasury, and the Bureau of Fiscal Service announced they disbursed approximately 90 million economic impact payments from the American Rescue Plan. So third round economic impact payments on the way. As announced last week, economic impact payments are rolling out in tranches to millions of Americans in the coming weeks. The first batch of payments were mostly sent by direct deposit, which some recipients started receiving this past weekend. So they're sending out the third round of the economic impact payments. They're going to be sending them out in a similar fashion as the prior two. In other words, if you got the direct deposit in the prior two economic impact payments, most likely you'll get the format of a direct deposit going directly into some type of account, such as a bank account. This time, if you got something mailed to you last time, either a check or debit card, then you'll probably get something mailed to you this time, either a check or debit card. They're going to focus first on the direct deposit type of transfers because that's the way they can get the money out the fastest to the first people that have that information, and they can of course then tell people and show that they are doing the progress by getting those out, and then the checks are going to take a little bit longer. So that looks like the priority. They're going to focus first on what they can do fastest, that being the direct deposits, and then possibly going to the mailing items, which would be including the debit cards and the checks. So as of today, all recipients of the first batch of direct deposit payments will have access to their funds. Here is additional information on the first batch of payments. These payments began processing on Friday, March 12th. Some Americans saw the direct deposit payments as pending or as provisional payments in their accounts before today's official payment date. So clearly the IRS is trying to get these direct deposit items out as soon as possible so that once again it can be in the economy and they could basically show that they're making progress with these types of payments, whereas the mailed payments will take them a little bit longer. It'll be a little bit more difficult to show the progress. They can show them being sent out, but the actual recipient side of things, of course, is a little bit more difficult than a direct deposit type of situation. So the first batch of payments primarily went to eligible taxpayers who provided direct deposit information on their 2019 or 2020 returns, including people who don't typically file a return, but who successfully used the non-filer tool on irs.gov last year. So basically, they're going to be focusing this third round of the economic impact payments on the prior tax return. If you had filed 2020, which many people have not yet because it's not yet due, but if you had and it had been processed, then they would base it on the 2020 return. If not, then they would base it on the 2019 return. If you don't need to file a tax return, but you used the non-filer tool, which is something they tried really put a lot of effort into the first year to try to get more information for non-filers. If they have gathered that information and they have it on record, then they should be able to process the economic impact payments based on that as well. So whichever method that they're using in order to send out the economic impact payments, 2020 tax return, 2019, or the non-filer tool, if they had the payment information on that return or that tool, then that's what they're typically going to use. And if it was a direct deposit, then you would think you would receive the direct deposit. So in total, the first batch included approximately 90 million payments, which are valued at more than $242 billion. The use of direct deposit is to issue these payments means that they are being delivered remarkably faster than would otherwise be possible. And that's going to be their objective. They're trying to push the direct deposit as much as possible so that they can do things quicker. They've been doing this for some years now, but with the social distancing and all that kind of stuff, they're trying to get the electronic system up more, meaning they would like to have tax returns filed electronically, and they would like to have the banking information so they can give refunds as well as receive payments electronically if possible. And obviously, once again, if it's an electronic payment, they can show the progress that they are doing a lot more quickly when you're talking about a big effort such as this, which would be nice to show your progress of sending out the payments here. So while the majority of payments were delivered by direct deposit, which reached individual taxpayers more quickly than paper checks, Treasury mailed roughly 150,000 checks worth approximately $442 million. So they are mailing out the checks as well. So if you don't have the direct deposit information, then you still shouldn't need to do anything in that case. Generally, they should be sending you out something in the mail, possibly a check. So finally, since the past weekend, more than 35 million people have received their stimulus payment status through the, quote, Get My Payment, end quote, tool on IRS.gov, which is updated on a regular basis as updated information is available. So if you want to look into whether or not the stimulus payment has gone out, you might use that tool, Get My Payment type of tool, which can be found on the IRS website at IRS.gov. I believe they update it like once or twice a day possibly, so you might want to check it morning and evening to see if it has not been updated. Any more than that might not be worth your time, considering they only update it, twice a day, I believe. So in any case, additional batches and payments will be sent in the coming weeks by direct deposit and through the mail as a check or debit card. So you might get that check or debit card once again, as was the case with past payments. The vast majority of all economic impact payments will be issued by direct deposit. No action is needed by most taxpayers. The payments are automatic and, in many cases, similar to how people received their first and second round of economic impact payments in 2020. So in other words, they're saying you don't need to do anything at this point. The IRS is on autopilot in essence, based on the information they have already. And given the fact that they did this last year, and any kind of people that didn't file the tax return, they spent a whole year basically trying to gather that information. So hopefully they have that at this point, and then they can base this one on, prior tax return information. So at this time, really they're just sending it out. You don't need to really do anything. There will most likely be issues and problems with people possibly getting a payment that is not, correct or something like that. And at that point in time, we can probably go into any kind of reconciliation or adjustments of that problem. But there should be far less of issues, given the fact that we've learned a lot from the first and second, or they have learned a lot from the first and second payments. This one's, uniform for basically all people, and instead of having differences for dependents and the taxpayers and whatnot, which will probably make the disbursement easier. You can argue whether or not that'd be good for policy or whatnot, but it would probably make the disbursement of the money easier. And once again, they should have a lot more detail at this point in time for people like non-filers and being able to work with other institutions like Social Security and whatnot to pick up the payments for people that are receiving income from those areas. So at this point in time, the money's going out. You can check it and see if it is going out, and if there's any problems with it, we'll probably get updates in the future as to what those problems may be and the remedies for them, which could mirror, most likely you would think there'd be similar remedies as we've seen in the first and second round, but we'll see. So individuals can check the Get My Payment. There's a link to the Get My Payment tool here on IRS.gov to see the payment status of these payments. Additional information on these economic impact payments, there's a link to the economic impact payments here, along with a fact sheet of frequently asked questions, is available on IRS.gov. Once again, there's links to the Get My Payment tool, the economic impact payments link, and frequently asked questions, FAQs here. There'll be a link to this in the description.